Hey everybody, btmreview.com here with our third episode this season of the Walking Dead podcast. I'm Aaron here with Riverman and Pat.
Hey, what's up?
Howdy, folks.
This is our fourth episode, actually.
Is it the fourth episode?
Yeah.
Is it really?
Yeah.
That's right, because we had 3 in a row that were very, very consistent with each other, and I think we made mention of that. This one changed up the pace a little bit, but it's kind of exactly how we thought it was going to be, I think. I mean, I don't want to speak for everybody, but it was focused on Beth.
I think that's pretty much what we all predicted, that this whole episode was going to be Beth-centric. I wish they would have kind of explained a little more the Daryl connection to it that was left off at the end of the third episode, but such is the case with The Walking Dead.
Well, I mean, it's connecting pretty... This episode, I can take episodes like this in moderation. I didn't mind it. I mean, yeah, it was... No. You want to start this already?
No. I'm just saying that you're always making excuses for the show.
He'll wait for you to finish before he starts, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm not making excuses for the show. I'm just going off like the pre-podcast banter that nobody else heard because you guys were calling it a boring fucking episode for spoilers there. All I'm saying is that I'm okay with an episode like this as long as we don't get 2 more following it. And like the way it ended, we're jumping around here, but obviously the episode ends with the obvious person that Norman Reedus runs into in the last episode, I would think. And as long as we're going to kind of get back to that, I don't have a problem with it. It changed the pace. I kind of dug the hospital setting. It was nice to see completely new people. But yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of action. I mean, we had the one scene where we had zombies down the laundry chute or whatever, and I think that was almost... It's like, hey, let's put that in there just so we can have some zombies this episode. I mean...
Well, Beth got that rapey guard eaten by that zombie. That was pretty sweet.
Oh, that's right.
That was the best part.
That was cool.
Well, and that character was kind of entertaining, too. Just this sleazeball... I don't know. He wasn't meant to last, though, unfortunately.
Oh yeah, you knew something bad was gonna happen to him within at least before the mid-season break. Mm-hmm. I was actually surprised they killed him off so fast.
Yeah, I was hoping they keep him around because I really enjoyed that lollipop scene.
Before we actually get into like what this hospital is and who these people are, I want to say it's really interesting to me that she wakes up in this place and she asks minimal questions, I think, relatively. And I think it's funny how quickly she jumps right into being like nurse assistant. Like, Beth, get me 100 cc's of, give me this. She's not trained for that. Does she ask questions at all? Or is she pretty familiar with that, working around her dad or whatever?
Well, maybe that, and maybe they have a really accelerated learning program inside the hospital. Maybe it's a university hospital. They can teach her on the fly.
Yeah, I guess.
Got some extra learning materials laying around. I don't know.
What I want to know is, when did she go to the hospital? Because, I mean, just the whole timeline's all fucked up, isn't it? Because if she got kidnapped by the same people, like, what, a year and a half ago from the past season?
Like, a year and a half ago?
Yeah.
They're not in our time, River.
No, I understand that. It's just... I mean, the whole timeline of her getting kidnapped. Okay, they found her on the side of the road because she was going to get eaten by a zombie. And then Carol's there the next day. It didn't really make sense to me in that.
Oh, that she finally woke up. Yeah, I guess you're talking about... Yeah, I wonder at what point did she wake up, and then from the start of the episode, from when she woke up, and then when Carol arrived, how long was that?
Yeah, because, I mean, I thought that was like months and months, but I don't know.
Well,
maybe she was in a coma, I don't know.
Bigger nerds than us, I'm sure, have figured this out. So let us know, bigger nerds.
Yeah, I guess if you're cracking it down like that, I would say that she was just in a coma rather than the whole hospital scenario was. I think she was only awake for a couple of days. I don't know.
But nothing. When it comes to timelines, nothing is clearly defined whatsoever on this show.
Yeah.
Spans of time, especially
there's no winter season, so that kind of
you can kindly only work within each episode really as it goes.
Well, let's break down the episode though. Okay, so what do we think this hospital is? Obviously, we have one doctor who I guess worked there before, and that's who sort of more or less takes to Beth, and we kind of find out that I mean, he kind of has his motives. I mean, he has her kill that other doctor to kind of save his skin. But why is the one lady? There's the two officers. We already talked about Rapey McGee, and there's the one female who's kind of the head honcho. Why is she in charge? Who are these people? And what are your takes?
Why the hell is she in charge? She's not intimidating at all. I don't know why people would actually follow her.
Apparently, she took care of the guy who used to be in charge. Which would she must have killed him, is what they mean by that, I would assume, or some other form or fashion exiled him. But I couldn't really see that. So, I mean, as excuse me, as an actual authoritative figure, she doesn't. I'm with you there, River. She doesn't really intimidate me too terribly much. I mean, I understand they were police officers back before all the shit hit the fan, but that really doesn't hold too terribly much weight anymore. Rick has stopped wearing his freaking badge. I don't even think Carl's wearing that stupid hat anymore.
He's still wearing the hat.
No.
He was wearing the hat in the last episode. But I think it's funny, though. I actually thought about when I was watching that episode and I saw them in the uniforms. Who's to say any of these people are actually in that profession, at least before the zombie apocalypse?
No, that's true.
Could you? I mean, I thought that'd be kind of interesting. Like you said, Pat, everything kind of goes out the window. So the whole world goes to crap. And let's say we're all trying to survive and walking around. And, what if we see like a dead or an officer, or we come across a police? We could sit there and throw on police uniforms, and kind of play that
authoritative figure.
And
authoritative figure.
She isn't very good at running things, because what an excessive use of resources to actually use something to power a frickin' iron to make sure your uniform is pressed.
Yeah, that's pretty fucking stupid.
Like, I mean, they were powering that the guy on the respirator with friggin' car batteries. What the hell are they using to power the iron? I mean, come on now. They'd have to. They have by now run out of cars within about a mile to 2 mile radius of the hospital to steal car batteries from. So, I mean, we don't know too terribly much about where they are actually getting their resources. So, I mean, I guess time will tell. So, but I kind of thought some of those things were interesting and kind of funny.
And Beth went through 3 uniforms in like one day, like scrubs, because all the blood. I mean, you'd think they'd be like, hey, you're wearing that for a month, so don't try and make too much of a mess.
That guy down in the laundry room must have been working his ass off, because it's a fucking hospital. There's blood all over everything.
Which, by the way, that's Everybody Hates Chris, I do believe, right? Little Chris Rock from that old show.
Holy shit, it is.
That's Everybody Hates Chris. He's a little older now, but yeah.
He kind of reminds me of Jaleel White.
Yeah.
Yeah, now that he's gotten older, he kind of does. I guess you're right. But so she met him, and for some reason, it was really. It was an ideal moment. I don't know, the whole sucker thing. She left her a sucker. I mean, I guess in the zombie apocalypse, that's a big deal. I guess you get nothing without approval from, the head honcho chick.
You have to earn your keep.
Yeah,
right.
Whatever you use is whatever you have to pay back.
Yeah,
and that's their racket. I mean, yeah. So she woke up. They saved her life, and she woke up in debt, basically, right?
That's how like factories in China and shit work.
So and she was really compliant, like, well, I'm not staying any longer than I have to. I know for a second there she said, well, I didn't ask for your help. Well, you needed it, that whole thing. So she wakes up, she's in debt, she's got to work off the debt. And when she met Everybody Hates Chris, I don't know his name at this point, he basically told her that you'll never get out of debt. Is that how it works? I mean,
yeah, pretty much. You're stuck there. Like I said, it's this cycle. It's like a Chinese factory. It's this cycle of debt that you're just constantly chasing, and
you're always going to be using their bed, eating their food, and
right. Each new thing. It's a zero. It's even worse than a zero-sum game at the end of the day. What do 3 meals? How much work do you have to do just to make your 3 meals back at the end of the day? Plus, whatever. The roof over your head costs to them, so it's just, it's a manipulative way, the main police officer kind of touched on it, that she knows Beth is weak because, and it's kind of interesting because she is kind of weak when it comes to the fact that she, like you said, didn't ask too terribly many questions, just kind of went along with it and just kind of accepted it. So they take a look at people who might be seen as subservient and easy to manipulate, and just kind of roll with it.
And
like
good
that.
looking too, I'm sure.
Well, I mean,
For the
Beth,
guards.
Beth is tunnel pretty. She's prison beautiful.
Yeah.
At this point. Well, you got. I mean, yeah, that's exactly the case, especially for that guard. I mean, she's way younger than that guy, and she's one of the only. I mean, I don't know if they were trying to make it seem like there was a lot of people in that hospital, because in the couple of scenes we saw, like she was in the cafeteria and you saw somebody serving food, and you maybe see a couple of people in the hallway. Other than that, you really just see the same three main characters. So
it looks like there's about a dozen people who live there.
Yeah, so it's like I don't. Were they just using directing and camera tricks to make it seem like there's more people than we actually see on camera, or was there really only a handful of people there? I don't.
I mean, you figure at this point with the budget they have, they'd be able to hire a couple extras or maybe even CGI a few in. So
the only person you see working is little Chris Rock. So
Noah's his name, by the way. Sorry.
Noah. Okay.
And the dude who was serving dinner. Wasn't there somebody there serving dinner?
Yeah, whether it was a girl or a guy, there was somebody in the background. It was just kind of, and then she was getting her food, and the rapist cop, kind of came up to her. Like I said, you've only seen the main characters and maybe like a guy like that in the background. So
maybe
I don't know.
Maybe it's even to give the illusion to the people like Beth that they they kidnap and turn into a life of what basically is tantamount to slavery. Because I mean, I think at any given moment, the most people that were in a scene were maybe 8. In the one scene where Beth was getting ready to break out, and there was people kind of coming and going in the hallway.
Mm-hmm. Are you saying little Chris Rock is a slave? Because that's totally backwards in our society.
I'm not racist, so no.
Well, it's funny because little Noah, I'm sorry, she got the big revelation from him, like, hey, they rescued me and my daddy, and he's been there a year, he says, and he realizes that I don't know if he witnessed it or whatever, or he just assumes that they killed his dad, but it was because he would have put up a fight.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I mean,
well, so this he's kind of got a grasp of it. He said he's been there a year, but I don't know. It just doesn't seem like you think he would have. Beth shows up there, and on the first day, he befriends Noah. She befriends Noah, and then she gets on his little escape plan. If there was more people there like him, you would have thought he would have already executed this by now. So I really don't think there's too many more people. But
well, and the thing is, didn't they go to the office to get the keys? I mean, what was the point of that if they didn't end up using the fucking keys?
Gosh, what were the keys for again?
I don't know. To get down the elevator shaft.
You folks, we actually watched the show. Yeah, I think it was to open something on either the first floor.
They didn't show it.
They had to have.
Somehow they got down there.
They had to have, and it just one of those little details that we missed. But yeah, they have that big divine escape plan, and they go down the elevator chute, which, God, I mean, like, Noah didn't hurt himself falling onto that pile of zombies. I mean, that was kind of cool. I mean, he hurt himself falling. Then they were trying to escape, and I get for the first time, I don't know if that's ever happened in the series where they start to get it. It's a closed quarters, and I guess you hear that death sound. It's supposed to be like their earshot. You'd think that would happen a little more in the series, but yeah, they escape, and only Noah actually breaks through, the guy with the limp.
Beth has that cheesy ass smile on her face.
Yeah, I mean, she has. I don't know. We failed to even mention the doctor, which I think that's really the only other big point. The only other character we haven't talked about is
Stephen Edwards.
Is that his real name?
Dr. Stephen Edwards, I think.
Anthony Edwards. That's gonna be hard for me to get right.
Yeah, I'll just call him Anthony.
No,
he's Anthony's brother. He was. Yeah, and he's Chicago Hope to Anthony Edwards. ER. Nobody watched that shit.
And what exactly his role? He's the only doctor, and he takes a liking to Beth. Do you think that's completely genuine, or do you think there's more to his character?
Ulterior motives. I mean,
he obviously had the thing where he had her kill the other doctor, which I don't know. Why was he so important? Was he so important to the chick in charge because she wanted the other doctor out because he wasn't so compliant to her authority?
Well, you find a bigger and better doctor than obviously the one that you got. You don't need him on the payroll anymore. And when it comes to the situation that they're in, one less mouth to feed is kind of a big deal, especially when you're rationing food every day. You have very limited supplies. and he said he was an oncologist. So if you have a cancer doctor versus, you know, some podiatrist who can, you know, or a proctologist or something like that, then you're going to take the cancer doctor all day and every day. So, and he kind of touched on that, saying that, you know, you're only, you know, as good as how useful as you are. And if she finds out that, hey, we got other doctors in here, we don't need this idiot. And so he's gone. So, I mean, it's also a kind of a power play. And I think he's using Beth kind of as his filter to find this stuff out, because he doesn't have any other adopted nurses, I guess, so to speak. I guess is what you can call them. I think he sees something in her, so I think it's kind of ulterior motives, and he actually genuinely takes a liking to her. Like, he can see she's pretty smart, kind of resourceful and stuff like that. So, and he's obviously severely underestimated her, though, when it came to finding out that that other guy was a doctor. So,
I think he also wants to kind of hang this over her head just so he can get his pinky stinky.
Oh man, yeah, I don't know.
You know, the whole death of the other doctor and all that.
I don't think they're going to bring. God, no, I don't think they'd bring in another potential. She almost got raped. Norman Reedus wants to jump her bones. That's just too much. They're not going to bring another guy. Anyway, Noah, he escapes. Great for him. And like I said, it's obvious, at least maybe I'm not alone in this, that that's who Norman Reedus found in the last level. Would you guys agree, or do you guys think it's Morgan or somebody? How else would Norman Reedus know about the hospital?
Well, he said he was with Beth for a little while, though.
I think he was talking about when they were all separated.
Yeah, and he pretty much saw her. Yeah.
And it's funny because fate seems to be on the side of these people that live in the Walking Dead world, because we see Carol get it wheeled in, and they just always have a way of finding each other, which is very, very, very convenient. Nobody's just ever screwed in this world. Everybody else, all these groups they come across, they're all kind of isolated to their own world, but not the Walking Dead crew. No, they always come back full circle, and they're never going to get truly separated. But
apparently they never wander too far away from where the others are at, or as luck seems to have it, they always seem to just get into some wacky hijinks on the way. So
they travel all the way to Atlanta in a matter of hours.
But yeah, do
we really know how far we are from Atlanta? And it is, to begin with, I mean,
we're about 5 seasons away from Atlanta. I would assume they're up in like North Carolina or something, wouldn't you?
Who knows?
No.
They're probably in some suburb north of Atlanta or something. Who knows?
They have to be. I think they'd have to be. Well, who says they've been progressively moving up north or whatever?
Oh, I thought that's what they were headed for the past. Remember when they were going all the way to Terminus and they were walking for days and days and days?
Oh yeah, you're right. I don't know. We just keep coming across people that keep throwing back and mentioning Atlanta, so I just assumed they're in the greater area.
Because
Atlanta's pretty big.
It took them a whole season to get to Terminus, so I'm just throwing that out there. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good point. It'd be very interesting to be able to see like a map of the Walking Dead world, like just see how close everything is. But
and that timeline. Nerds, help us out.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody's got the answer out there. But yeah, I mean, I would think that to wrap it all up, that the person that Norman Reedus finds has to be Noah. And because he was out looking for Carol at the time, he comes across Noah instead, and then he questions him, and he tells him all about this hospital, and somehow he talks about the white girl and whatever, and he comes to find out, okay, this is where Beth is. I don't think he thinks Carol's there necessarily. But,
I think he does. I mean, I'm sure they got in some sort of gunfight or something. And
yeah, I mean, there's not.
They captured Carol, and Reedus got away with Noah, and that's probably how they knew Beth was there.
Really quick though, before we end it all, what was the whole thing about the explanation? They said that they found them. They were talking to Beth like, when we found you, we saved your life, and that's just a cover, right? Because they literally napped her.
Yeah, right? I think they just kind of use that as just seeing how that will fly, because they must pump them so full of drugs that they know they're not going. They can, well, they can't know it, but they can safely assume that they don't aren't going to have a memory of what just happened when they come out of whatever induced coma that they put her under, because we saw her get kidnapped. Now we didn't see. I can't. I can't specifically recall if when Daryl was just a few moments behind being able to help Beth out, if there was any zombies there. I don't specifically remember there being any, so I think it's a total cover, especially because they keep pounding it into her head too. So.
Mm-hmm. So realistically, starting with you, River, what do we think is going to entail with the next episode? What's going to happen?
I think you're pretty much spot on with Everybody Loves Chris is going to be coming back to the group, and they're basically going to say where Beth is and where Carol is, and then Rick's going to go after him with the rest of the group, and then we will have some sort of gunfight with the other head honcho police officer, and I don't know. Maybe they lay station there for a while up in the hospital, Rick and the gang.
Well, the rest of the group is going to Washington, D.C. Don't they want to, didn't they promise they would meet them?
Yeah.
Maybe next season.
I think if there was a gunfight, I don't think it'll last for too long, because they're pretty much, everybody in the hospital is going to be pretty much outgunned. I think it's all kind of smoke and mirrors when it comes to how strong they are and how much they're actually able to sustain when it comes to life. I think that'll be found out shortly, that it's just kind of all smoke and mirrors. I don't know about the next episode specifically. I don't know if you saw the previews for the next episode, but it looks it's all it pretty much kind of appears that it's all an entire episode with Abraham, Maggie, Glenn, Rosalita or whatever her name is, and Eugene. So Maggie still doesn't care about her sister, apparently.
No.
And yeah, it just seems like it's just an episode of them wandering around trying to head north.
One thing you got to think about, though, is this the hospital where Rick came from? Because if that's the case and they get locked up there and they, take refuge there for a while, we're probably going to have an episode, a flashback of Rick in the hospital or something to, do with the first season or something along those lines.
Maybe that's how they'll bring back in what's his face,
Morgan.
Yeah.
I was afraid. I didn't even consider the scenario with the Washington group, and that's what I was afraid of. And that's exactly what I meant by I didn't mind an episode like this in moderation if it's going to go directly in with narrative, and then they're going to go searching for her in the next episode. We're going to have the confrontation, but it's going to be a total of 2 episodes before we get 2 episodes minimum. And that's the only thing I don't like.
I can't for certain say that that's what the next episode's going to be, but when it came to the preview scenes for on the next Walking Dead, that is literally the only types of scenes that they showed involved.
Why is it such a bad thing to have 2 different plots going on in one episode? A little back and forth. It can be done tastefully.
Because they can't afford to pay all the actors.
Lowest common denominator stuff. I don't know.
It's just like I don't understand it. So yeah, you're probably right. It's probably going to be totally devoted to the DC gang, which is a shame, because I would have liked it to have been a direct continuation of this one. But I think it's funny though, when they do get to the hospital, wouldn't it be kind of cool if once Rick confronts the head honcho chick, he's a cop. Maybe he notices little things like, you're not a cop. Like, look at the way you act and react. Like, you're a phony. I mean,
he demands her badge and her gun on my desk right now.
I want the name and number of your superior.
Yeah.
Maybe there'll be a little love triangle between them.
There's got to be somebody in this episode. They've yet to do that, where somebody's just like a fake. Well, you're not a doctor. You couldn't get away with it too far, but I would think somebody would kind of have that persona. Somebody would take advantage,
like Leonardo DiCaprio from Catch Me As You Can. Just
exactly.
Making shit up as you go along
and fake it. Yeah. So, it's really unfortunate. But not even think about the whole Rick's hospital connection. That would be interesting, wouldn't it? Yeah. But I don't think we'd have flashbacks, because didn't he was like in a coma. He doesn't remember anything. He woke up and he was in a hospital bed and the world was over.
Yeah, well, maybe they'll show how he got there. I don't
know. Shane was banging his horrible wife.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. I was just throwing it out there.
Maybe though, would it be funny though if they got to the hospital and Anthony Edwards or whatever his name is like, oh yeah, I treated you. Maybe that was his doctor.
Yeah.
They always find some way to make these little connections and stuff, and maybe he can shed a little bit more light on what happened, because Rick, there's this big space of time that he was out. He woke up, everything was fine. He woke up and the world was shit. So I don't know. It just sounds like fluff they could easily insert into the show as a writer, and they're all about that. But so yeah, unfortunately, I agree with Pat, and that sucks, man, because going right into the opinions on the episode and the ratings, I don't mind, and I didn't mind terribly an episode like this because it was a nice change of scenery. I wanted to know what happened to Beth. I liked the new setting. I like getting introduced to new characters, but I with the fear aside that I don't want to have 3 episodes of this narrative. But 1 is okay. But now that we know we're gonna have yet another Maggie thing, that's the only thing that pisses me off. I can take episodes like this in small doses, but just looking at it as a single episode, I didn't mind it. It wasn't action-packed at all. It was just all about introducing new characters and answering a couple of questions. It was okay. I mean, I'd give it I wish 6 or 7. I don't know. 6, 7? Something like that. Not great, but it wasn't bad. I mean, tear it apart, yeah. River. It's your turn.
Well, for the time that I was actually awake during the show... No, it was, it was okay. I mean, it was kind of a sleazy Floyd for me. It was just like, it was there, There's nothing I really liked about it. I mean, the new characters are okay. I mean, I really didn't care about any of them. I thought the sleazeball was pretty entertaining, and that was probably the best part of the episode. And like I said before, I don't give a shit about Beth, so I really didn't give a shit about the episode. I'd rather be following the DC crew right now than be following Beth.
Oof.
So yeah, I know, and you don't want to do that, but I'd rather be doing that and just get rid of the whole Beth story. But overall, I'd give it a 4 out of 10. It
had a lot of focus though. With it just focused on interrupt, but just having Beth on there. If you had the DC crew, it would just be jumping around. Everybody's got to get their one line in. At least with Beth, it only concentrated on her, and it had a lot of focus.
But we're making progress with the DC group. We're stepping back with Beth.
Yeah, I agreed.
So 4 out of 10.
4 out of 10. Hey, really quick though, what happened? Speaking of the sleazeball, what was the chick with one arm doing in that room?
Killing herself.
Is that? I mean, what? I kind of missed that.
Yeah, that's what I kind of gathered, that she went into... I don't understand why she went into the head cop's office to kill herself, though. That still kind of escapes me. Like, look what he did to me, type stuff.
Yeah, she just wrote "fuck you" on the floor and then killed herself. I don't know. Didn't she cut off her hand or something, or her arm, or?
No, they cut. That
was prior. Oh, okay, yeah.
You really fell asleep, didn't you? You weren't kidding.
I told you, man. I told you I did.
You
Actually,
really did.
That was a pretty hardcore scene when they cut her arm off. So
it was kind of gross. And that's why Beth had to change her scrubs the second time, I do believe.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, interesting. So I don't know, what was the FU about? I mean, I know she wanted to die. I think she had like a history with him or something, and she wanted to die.
She was tired of getting raped by the sleazeball.
And wasn't she pregnant?
She might have been.
Yeah, you think she was? She was the dirty towel rag for that
pretty much
one guy just to rape, and just that's disgusting. Yeah, that makes sense.
And then he's trading her in for a newer model because Beth just came in. So
yeah, that makes sense. I just want a little closure on that. I don't understand. What was your rating?
Maybe she was just jilted lover, and she's just like, if I can't have you, then I'm just gonna kill myself.
I'm sure that's the reason.
Yeah,
she was that in love with him. He is even in the zombie apocalypse, he is that much of a catch.
Oh,
I'm so turned on by you, fat Garth Brooks in a cop outfit.
Yeah, you rapey ass motherfucker.
You're.
I'm gonna go with I mean, I guess I was entertained by it, but I don't want to. I guess I'll go with a 5 on this. It was adequate, even more so in a bad way than episode 2 was to me. It just, we got some explanation as to where Beth was based off of the scenes of the coming episodes. We already knew where she was. She was in the hospital. I think the connection with Rick in the hospital, I think that actually will come up one way or another. It's just because they're in it for the cheap pops. Again, lowest common denominator television. They have hundreds of millions of people to entertain at a given time, so why not? but I'm almost with River on this one, where I would rather be out on the road. At least the folks heading to Washington D.C. are going to encounter more than just a zombie here and there. So it was just adequate to me. Again, some of all the parts as a singular episode, I think it gets this rating. But if I was rating the whole season, I like the pacing of it. It was just an adequate episode. Again, it was just kind of there.
We all got different scores, but I think we're on the same page because it's literally a 4, 5, and a 6, which is directly in the middle. So it's pretty mediocre, give or take. So
well, there was nothing. There was nothing in it for us to cry completely afoul.
Yeah.
To where we just absolutely hated it. And even then, I'd say that that's an improvement from an episode a season ago that's about Beth and Daryl just hanging out, getting drunk.
That's true.
That was worthless.
Yeah.
That literally did absolutely nothing to the story. Even if it was meant to serve as kind of like a coming of age for Beth, we already kind of figured that, since you already, they pretty much wrote her off in the previous seasons basically as just a glorified babysitter, that, she had either matured as she went or was just already a little child. It was just so unnecessary for that episode last season, but it is what it is.
But it got everybody talking because of the whole he's so old and she's so young, and that's catering.
That's what really kind of kicked her back in, really kind of catapulted her into being a main character too.
Well, there you have it.
Her slips appeal.
Pretty mediocre episode. Hopefully it's better, and hopefully next week, even though it's a side track story of the DC crew, hopefully it'll still be plenty interesting. At least we'll hopefully get some questions answered. Maybe they'll get to DC quicker than they won't, but I hope they do. Maybe they'll at least make it.
That is optimism at its finest.
Who's going to be driving the short buses? Is it going to be Eugene?
Seamus is in control, man.
Okay.
He's sorry, Abraham. Eugene, they don't even want him. He's the kind of guy. Like his grandma wouldn't even let him pour his own milk. Like he's got to sit down.
They have to wipe his ass for him.
Yeah, I was about to say that guy's not wiping his own ass.
Yeah, that's true.
He sneezes hard and Abraham fucking pulls a gun out.
Yeah, it's like, we don't want you wiping too hard because we don't want to risk you getting a hemorrhoid and you could bleed out. They don't.
Right. You start to chafe and you can go septic and you can die real quick.
Exactly.
You got swamp ass, Eugene. We need to stop. We're stopping right here.
But I look forward to seeing what's going to unfold there. But I mean, ultimately, I just kind of want everybody to get back together and for this season to progress. Because so far, you're right, Pat. I mean, it's so far the pace. I'm not counting it out. Has been decent, but we're just in territory right now where it's getting scary. Like I might slow down from here. Hopefully, it doesn't. But anyway, those are our opinions, not necessarily yours. Let us know what you think on the website btmreview.com, where also, by the way, you can feel free to message us on the contact section if you'd like to contribute via article, via talking nonsense and just being a cynical asshole. It's all needed and it's all appreciated. Hit up the Facebook BTM Review as well, and the YouTube channel. Subscribe to that and leave us plenty of feedback. We really enjoy it, and it gives us a good chuckle, and it puts us into place. So that's really all I got. Any final comments?
Nothing for me, man.
I got it.
All right, well, it'll be fun. We'll be back next week, and thanks all for listening.
The Riverman.
Pat.
And Aaron. Later, guys.
Good night, Canada.